Hey.
Thanks for joining us, man.
My pleasure. How's it going?
Not bad. And you? You're in Mexico City today?
Yes, sir.
Before we start, did you just try to call and the Mexican operator couldn't get a hold of us?
I tried to call direct, and it sounded like I got some kind of parts company of some sort.
Did you buy
and
some?
I checked the number about 10 times. I'm like, no. Anyway.
Did you buy some parts?
I'm good on parts right now.
All right, man, let's get into it. I was wondering how satisfied you are with your approach that you've taken to the marketing and distributing with your music contrasted with most mainstream artists in that relationship with the major label. For example, the latest release of The Slip.
Well, I think we've done the right thing. You know, to be quite honest with you, in a perfect world, I wouldn't be thinking about that part of it at all, and I'm much more interested in music and just working on music rather than the way it's sold to people and marketed. But coming from a long tenure on a major label, what's a lot more frustrating is when you're under their slavery and you're watching what they're doing, because you know that's wrong. Like, I'm not sure if what we did is right, but I know what they're doing is wrong.
Well, did you get, on that note, like, because we agree with you 100%, I think most fans would, but do you think, did you get more praise, or did you kind of get slacked on from your industry peers, like other musicians?
Surprisingly, I haven't heard much from other musicians, and I'm also surprised that there aren't more musicians doing something like what we're doing, you know, the ones that can.
Sure.
Because I do know the frustration of being on a label, and, okay, now it's a countdown until when the record's going to leak, and your hands are tied, and there's nothing you can do, and you see that your record label is involved in suing fans that are what? Interested in your music enough to get it as soon as it comes out, like any fan would be. You know, my stance recently has been to choose the fights I get involved in, and I don't necessarily think music should be free, but I understand why people feel that it should be. And I understand that I could go off on a long tangent about why I think they feel that way. A lot of the blame lies squarely on record labels for overcharging for music for years, for putting out terrible product for years. The scam of switching from vinyl to CD and doubling the price of music when it's cheaper to make it.
Sure.
No, I think consumers have finally reached a point where they've had enough. That crap music that's been albums with 15 terrible songs with 2 singles, charging $20 for it. People are tired of it. You know, and record labels' own ineptitude when it came to the internet, and even understanding what that is, and coming up with a format like CD that's easily copyable and piratable, they dug their own grave. All of that's been done, and it's over, and that battle's been lost. And rather than try to fight that and take the losing proposition of saying, hey, I'm a musician, I've worked my whole life and dedicated my whole life to trying to make these songs that now, just because the technology exists that you can take them for free, doesn't mean morally it's right to do that. Nobody wants to hear that.
Sure.
You know, everyone assumes everybody that's in a band is rich, a lot of which has been propagated by people in bands and a whole bling hip-hop culture that celebrates how much money you have.
I assumed you're just calling from a giant glass of absinthe, like the Perfect Drug video.
Well, yeah, I hang out in that usually in my crystal mansion on my private island. You know, all of that is bull. But anyway, see why the situation is the way it is, and the way I look at it is I can't change any of that, but I can accept this is how it is and try to make the best of it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that the good news is people are still interested in music, and they're still excited by it. You know, so how do we recreate some of the excitement of a release day? Well, give your record away, you know, and to distribute it yourself. And that's a bitter pill to swallow when, 10 years ago, the only way you made money really was by selling records. And what little bit the record label decided to give you as the artist was your bread and butter. You know, now, when I'm off a label, any money that might come in from playing a show or selling a T-shirt or selling an MP3, it all goes in the same pile. And one of the reasons we made The Slip free was I just tried to sell you Ghosts. And if you're a real fan, you might have wanted to get the nice package that was expensive but worth it if you ever saw it. It was a nice package. We're putting tickets for a concert on sale. That's not free. I didn't want to come out and say, hey, surprise, new album. Here it is, $10.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, here's a new record. I'm surprised it's done. Take it. Give it to your friends. And as an artist, I'm happy that you want as many people to hear it as possible. Not just those willing to spend money to hear it. Give it to everybody.
Let's talk about you as an artist, Trent. Like, Nine Inch Nails is Trent Reznor and vice versa. Do you find that your hands-on approach when it comes to production, playing the instruments and all that, to all aspects of your music, do you find that to be a gift or a curse?
Overall, a gift. And it started that way because I couldn't find anyone else that wanted to do what I wanted to do in Cleveland, Ohio. And I always longed to be part of a team, have some companions, and, we're out raping and pillaging and taking over the world together, but it never really was that. And that's why I also called it Nine Inch Nails instead of whatever I would have called it. It was just me.
The Trent Reznor and the Trent Reznor experience?
Yeah, something catchy like that. But over time, I've realized that this is what it is, and the collaboration comes in the form of, in the studio, Alan Mulder and myself and Atticus Ross and other people I've worked with. We collaborate in our own ways. It usually ends up with me playing most of the stuff and writing it, and them helping arrange and produce. And live is a different experience. It's much more of a group effort with the band I put together. I'm more comfortable with what it is now, but I've always wished it was, I always wished I was in the Smiths, where there's 4 guys with their own sound, and together it made this other sound, and that never was the case with me.
Hey, by the way, we hear you're going to be down a drummer. I'd like to tell you at this point, I do drum.
Well, come on down.
Okay, perfect.
That was easy.
You didn't even have to search. I'll draft the press release. Don't worry about it.
You bring, speaking of the shows, you guys bring, and through DVDs that I've watched and shows that I've seen, you guys bring so many different elements to your shows, and you personally, like staging, lighting, the visual aspects and stuff. What can this time around, what can we expect?
Well, we went all out on this tour, and this was really, I look back at the productions that we've done in the past, and they usually fell into the same pitfalls of not giving ourselves enough time to really work out what could be a great show. And I'm not saying they weren't great, but from a production standpoint, because Nine Inch Nails has always been a band that, in my opinion, we're not afraid of some theatricality. I never wanted to be Nirvana on stage with some white light bulbs over our heads. I'm not saying you can't be good doing that, but there's enough people doing that. I wanted to be Queen. I wanted to be Kiss.
Well,
I wanted to be Alice Cooper. Larger than life, and the mystique about it, and not at the expense of integrity or becoming a parody. But when you walk into a show, your mind to get blown, and you leave going, I've never seen anything like that or heard anything like that. Now that was great. And this time around, this whole tour started about a year ago. We had discussed the idea of possibly going out just in North America, which would have been this past summer. Wait, what is it now? Fall? Yeah, so summer. And I said, well, the only way I want to do it is if we could do this idea I had involving different video screens. And I said, run some numbers, and if it makes sense, then let's put it in motion. If it doesn't, then I don't know if I want to tour just doing a normal tour. So it did somehow work out, and we started designing the set back then, and I got some smart people involved with me to help me kind of think it through. We've come up with something it's exciting backstage before we go on, because it's fun for me to think, I can't wait to show this to you. It just becomes, it's exciting, because I think it really is a great show.